Science doesn't say that semen retention increases testosterone, but it does claim that if you start retaining, on the seventh day, your testosterone will spike around 148%, but then it will drop back to your baseline levels, which is true. Semen retention does not increase testosterone. Clickbaity title, I know, but I have even better news for you. Semen retention increases the density of your androgen receptors, which is super important because if your androgen receptors are not dense and not sensitive enough to capture your testosterone, then it won't matter that even if you have, let's say, 1000 nanograms per deciliter of testosterone, if your androgen receptors are not dense, the 1000 nanograms of testosterone won't do anything. You won't feel any symptoms of high testosterone because your androgen receptors are not dense enough, not sensitive enough to capture the testosterone that you have. So having more dense androgen receptors are even more important than having testosterone. You can have insensitive androgen receptors which are not dense, and you can, along with you, even if you have 1000 nanograms of testosterone, it won't matter. Someone who has 500 nanograms of testosterone but his androgen receptors are dense and very sensitive, that person will feel way more higher symptoms, way more intense symptoms of high testosterone than someone with low androgen receptors density. That is how important androgen receptors are. You need to focus on your androgen receptors density more than your testosterone. Because when you say that you want high testosterone, you don't say that you want high number. Even if you say that, but at its core, you are just at your core that you are just wanting a feeling, the feeling of high testosterone. You want a feeling. You don't want a number on a lab report. You want a feeling, which dense androgen receptors, only dense androgen receptors will give you. Because even if you get 1000 nanograms of testosterone in your lab report and you're like, oh, I still don't feel the effects, you kind of just getting high from looking at the lab report that, oh, I have high testosterone, that must mean I'm more masculine and all that stuff. But the authentic symptoms won't appear unless you have dense androgen receptors. If your androgen receptors are dense and active and very sensitive to your testosterone, only then you'll feel the effects of testosterone. Which, of course, ejaculation dulls your androgen receptors. It makes them insensitive. It doesn't help them to become more dense. They become more kind of shallow. The volume of the density of your androgen receptors is compromised when you ejaculate. When you start retaining this, you will start feeling effects of your testosterone. Doesn't matter how much testosterone you have. Even if you have 400 nanograms of testosterone, it will be utilized properly by your body. You will feel symptoms of high testosterone even at 400 or 500 nanograms of testosterone. Because that is how important androgen receptors are. They need to be dense, they need to be sensitive. Every time you ejaculate, you are desensitizing them. Every time you do it. That's why even if some of you have 1000 nanograms of testosterone and you constantly ejaculate, you will know this. You still feel no drive. You still feel lack of energy. You still don't feel that strong enough that high testosterone claims to be. What am I saying? You don't feel strong enough. You've heard that high testosterone might make you stronger, but you don't feel that because your androgen receptors are not dense enough to capture your testosterone. They are only capturing some of it because they are not, androgen receptors are not dense yet. So now you know what to do. You need to start focusing on your androgen receptors more than your testosterone, way more than your testosterone, because you have a control over your androgen receptors. You cannot control your testosterone from semen retention because it does not increase testosterone. Sure, you can increase your testosterone from getting vitamin D, getting enough fat and cholesterol in your diet, all that stuff. But androgen receptors can't be neglected. You cannot just focus on your testosterone and kind of put the androgen receptors in the back burner. You need to put your main focus on androgen receptors. That's where semen retention comes. Semen retention helps your androgen receptors become more dense and more sensitive to the testosterone that's flowing in your body. Think of it like Pac-Man. It's just eating all the testosterone for you so that you can feel the effects of testosterone. But if you're constantly ejaculating and if you're constantly ejaculating, then Pac-Man goes to sleep. It cannot eat testosterone. So no more testosterone for you. That's it. That was it. Start focusing on your androgen receptors. This will change your life. This will change your energy. This will change everything. Because you have been putting your focus in the wrong place. You were just obsessed with testosterone, the numbers and all that stuff. But androgen receptor is the key. Think of it like this is your testosterone and this is your androgen receptors. Testosterone needs to bind into androgen receptors in order to feel the effects of testosterone. In order to express itself, it needs to bind to the androgen receptors. But if there are not enough androgen receptors, most of your testosterone won't get utilized. It will just stand idle. It won't do anything. It's just sitting in your body, not doing anything, completely useless. But if there are more than enough androgen receptors, all of your testosterone will get utilized. All of it will bind into androgen receptors. That is how important androgen receptors are, so that your testosterone can be expressed in its fullest potential. Now you get it. Have an awesome day.